Ayuban Puthe. Now we are discussing management accounting, the 14th lesson. In the previous lesson we discussed management accounting introduction, material costing and labor costing. So today also we will discuss another important area in management accounting. So before starting this lesson, I must thank to Bank of Ceylon for inviting me to conduct this series of seminars under the concept of NanaJaya. Before starting today's questions discussions, I'm going to take your attention for a small article written by our island press Teshani Gimbal. It was a small article written by one of my former students, 2019 Island Press, Teshani Nimhara, Colombo District Press and Island Press from Bishop's College, Colombo. Now we'll start our overhead part. The overhead costing. Indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expenses we identify as the overhead cost. Indirect. If you can identify directly, a cost item directly with specific object, we call it's a direct cost or prime cost. But the electricity, rent, insurance, you can't directly identify. As an example, now Bank of Ceylon is conducting this series of seminars. So there it has electricity bill, the rent, staff salaries. Seminar wise you can't identify. If you can't identify a cost item with a specific cost unit, we call it's an overhead cost. So mainly we have three types: indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses. Addition of these three we call overhead costing. Now this overhead costing is a process. Initially we have to identify overhead cost. Using various sources you can identify. Electricity, you get electricity bill. Telephone bill. Through that you can identify this overhead cost item. In an organization you have production department as well as service department. In an organization you have production department and service department. This production and service department overhead cost we have to identify. A certain cost you can directly allocate. In the organization, accounting department, if they are using a separate telephone line, they can identify telephone expenses. Marketing division, they are having separate electricity meter, then you can identify electricity expenses. If you can't identify, you have to apportion it. Now say entire company has one single telephone line, entire company has one single electricity meter, then by using a reasonable basis you have to allocate overhead cost among this production and service department. That is called apportionment. So I told you there are two departments, production departments and service department. The production department, service department. What service department? They are providing supporting services to production department. Service department, they are providing supporting services to production department. So ultimately you have to calculate you have to reapportion service cost among production cost centers. You have to allocate service cost among production cost center. That is called reapportionment of overhead. Identification, collection, and identification, allotment, apportionment, reapportionment, and you have to calculate the overhead absorption rate. You have to calculate overhead absorption rate. Then you calculate the product cost. So all these steps we are discussing under overhead costing. That's a basic introduction to overhead cost. We'll move to the questions. So question number 1. To select the correct answer, the overhead cost per unit should be calculated before reapportionment. No. The before calculation absorption rate, you have to reallocate service cost among the production department. So this one here before is wrong. You have to allocate service cost among production department. Secondary allocation requires only if service department provide their services to other service department. No, service department not to other service department. Service department provide service department provides supporting service to production department. Overhead absorption rate is calculated dividing estimated overhead. Dividing estimated overheads, correct, by estimated unit, correct. Absorption rate is calculated by dividing estimated overheads by the estimated units. The fourth one, overhead absorption rate is calculated dividing estimated overhead, correct, actual units. No, absorption rate we calculate both using estimated or budgeted information. Overhead cost per unit should be calculated after the reapportionment of production cost, after the reapportionment of, correct, production cost. No, not production cost. So you reapportion service cost among production department. Service cost among production department, not production cost among service department. Answer number 5 also wrong. So we have the correct answer now. We have the correct answer now. Answer number 3. The answer number 3 is the correct answer for question number 1. The question number 2. Of the following, what is the most correct statement in relation to overheads? Overhead costs do not add any value. No. End product means final product, overhead is a value addition. Then you can't take this answer. Overhead cost is an element of prime cost. No. Product cost consists of prime cost and overhead. Overhead is not a part of prime cost. Answer number 2 also incorrect. Overhead cost comprise of cost of indirect materials, indirect labor and indirect expense. Yes, overhead has 3 parts: indirect materials, indirect labor and indirect expenses. Correct. All kinds of overheads vary with the level of production. All kind. No. There are fixed overhead. If you take monthly rent, fixed overhead. All overheads are not variable. Insurance is insurance premium fixed. It's not a variable overhead. It says all kind of overheads vary. No, there are fixed overhead also. All kind of overheads cost are identified as a part of total manufacturing cost. All kinds part of manufacturing cost. No. The overheads, you have administration overhead, distribution overhead, those are not part of manufacturing cost. Overhead, you have non-manufacturing overhead also, in addition to manufacturing overhead. Sales commission, non-manufacturing overhead, distribution cost. Then answer number 5 also not correct. The correct answer is overhead cost comprise of cost of indirect materials, indirect labor and indirect expenses. Answer number 3. Indicate whether each of the statement given in the table below true or false. The first one, all kind of overheads, all overheads are fixed. All overheads are fixed. No, there are variable overheads. Variable overheads also. Variable overheads. Example, electricity, variable overhead. Water charges, variable overheads. Certain fixed overhead also there. If you take factory rent, fixed. Factory insurance, fixed. Depreciation, fixed. But if you take electricity bill, then telephone bills, water charges, variable. So statement number 1 is false. The next one, the electricity expenses incurred for the light. You put light. The company can be distributed among cost centers using floor areas. This electricity expense clear to lighten the company. You have to put lights based on the area. You have to put lights based on the area. Then electricity expense incurred for the lighting of the company can be allocated using floor area is correct. It's correct. The first statement false, second statement is correct. Which the following formula is correct to calculate the overhead absorption rate based on production unit? Overhead absorption rate on production unit. So what's the formula to calculate overhead absorption rate? Overhead absorption rate, say OAR, overhead absorption rate is equal to budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Overhead absorption rate is equal budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. We'll take the first answer. The budgeted overheads, correct. What's the basis they have given? They have given production unit. Budgeted production unit. Budgeted production cost, correct. Budgeted production unit also correct. We'll go to second answer. It says the actual overhead. Budgeted is correct, but actual it's not correct. Third one, it says actual. Can ignore this answer, actual. Fourth one, budgeted total production unit. Here numerator is wrong. Fifth one, actual production unit. No, it's incorrect. So out of the answers given, how you calculate overhead absorption rate based on production unit? Answer number 1. Budgeted total production overhead divided by budgeted production units. Answer number 1. Total manufacturing cost, overhead cost is equal to total product manufacturing cost. Total manufacturing cost. Overhead cost, overhead. And when it says overhead, it includes two elements: the manufacturing or production overhead, non-manufacturing overheads. Overhead cost include manufacturing overhead and non-manufacturing overhead. What are the examples of non-manufacturing overheads? Administration, distribution, finance and other. Right. the 75% of work in progress opening closing balances 75% of production costs are applicable for the production activities. This overhead expense 75% for production activities. 75%. And work in progress valued at manufacturing cost. Out of the production overhead of 80,000, 75% is applicable for manufacturing activities, then rest 25% should be non-manufacturing cost. The total product overheads given of that 75% manufacturing. Balance 25% non-manufacturing. Remember, this is given here total manufacturing cost. It includes prime cost as well as manufacturing overhead or a factory overhead. It includes prime cost and manufacturing or production overhead. Right. So question number 5. What is the total cost for the year? Total cost. The total cost consists of manufacturing cost plus non-manufacturing cost. Total cost consists of manufacturing cost plus non-manufacturing cost. We'll make the calculation. On the total cost. The manufacturing cost. How much it was given? The manufacturing cost given as 120,000. 120,000. Then the overhead cost given 80,000. 75% already included in manufacturing cost. 75% already included in manufacturing account. So you have to take only 25% non-manufacturing cost. The manufacturing cost is 120. The non-manufacturing cost. How much? The non-manufacturing cost, total overheads given of that 25%. Total overheads 25%. The total overheads given as 80,000 of that 25. 80,000 into 25%. How much? 80,000 25%. 20,000. So altogether you get 140,000 rupees. Manufacturing cost is 120. Non-manufacturing cost is 20,000. Here of this 80,000, 75% applicable for production. 75% applicable for production. This 75. Balance 25% is non-manufacturing cost. Then 140,000 rupees. 140,000 rupees. The answer number 2. Answer number 2. 140,000 rupees. 140,000 rupees. The next question number 6. Based on the same information, previous information, what is the value of prime cost? What's the value of prime cost based on this information? Prime cost. These are the information. The prime cost. The production cost consists of, or total cost consists of. total of manufacturing cost consists of 120. The manufacturing cost consists of the total manufacturing cost consists of the prime cost plus production overheads or manufacturing overheads plus opening work in progress minus closing work in progress. The manufacturing cost or production cost is equal prime cost plus manufacturing or production overheads plus opening work in progress minus closing work in progress. Right. The question requirement to calculate the prime cost, this value, to calculate the prime cost. Right. You can substitute question values. Total manufacturing cost is given as 120,000. The total manufacturing cost is 120,000. The prime cost is a missing value. The production overhead. The overhead is given. How much? 80,000. Of that 75%. 80,000 into 75%. Plus your work in progress adjustment. Here opening work in progress 15,000, closing work in progress 5,000. Opening work in progress 15,000, closing work in progress 5,000. Closing work in progress 5,000. Opening 15 minus closing 5. Then you can calculate the missing value. The 120,000 equal prime cost we don't know. 18 to 75% is 60 plus 15 minus 5. 120. The prime cost 75 minus 70. The prime cost is 120 minus 70,000. 50,000 is the prime. The prime cost is 50,000. Using manufacturing cost formula, we calculate the missing value. Prime cost plus production overhead plus opening work in progress minus closing work in progress. Answer is 50,000 rupees. What's the prime cost? 50,000 rupees. Answer number 1. So you have two departments, actual overheads details and budgeted overhead details. The actual overhead and budgeted overhead machine hours given. The budgeted machine hours 60,000 rupees. The overall predetermined absorption rate overall predetermined absorption rate. Right. The overhead absorption rate. So what's the formula to calculate the overhead absorption rate? The overhead absorption rate equal, overhead absorption rate is equal, we say OAR, overhead absorption rate is equal budgeted overheads or estimated overheads divided by budgeted basis. Budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Right. So what's the budgeted overhead? The budgeted overhead, department A 700,000, department B 500,000. The addition is 1,200,000. We have to calculate the overall predetermined absorption rate. The budgeted overhead, how much? Is 1,200,000. 1,200,000. So the budgeted machine hours, how much? The budgeted machine hours given 60,000. The budgeted machine hours is 60,000. 20 rupees. This is based on what we calculated. Based on machine hours per machine hour. 20 rupees per machine hour. The average overhead cost per machine hour is 20 rupees. Average overhead cost is 20,000. If you want the calculation again, budget overheads for the overall company 1,200,000. Machine hours, here basis we use machine hours. Machine hours. 20 rupees per machine hour. Now the answer is given. ₹20. Answer number 3. The following information relates to a company which has two production departments. They have two production departments, namely A and B. The product is made by department A and product B produced by department B. Overheads, department A budgeted actual, prime cost, department AB budgeted actual, labor hours budgeted actual. The overheads are absorbed based on labor hours by both departments. Department A has produced 1000 units and Department B has produced 2000 units. Department A has produced 1000 units and Department B has produced 2000 units. Now the requirement. The requirement, what's the total overhead cost absorbed by Department A? Overhead cost absorbed by Department A. How to calculate overhead absorbed? So how we calculate overhead absorbed? overhead absorbed equal this actual overhead absorption rate into actual basis, or here actual basis what they have given, how they allocate overhead. So previously overhead are absorbed by labor hours, they use labor hours. To absorb overhead they use labor hours. The overhead absorption rate will calculate overhead absorbed equal overhead absorption rate into actual basis. So we have two department, department A and department B. We will calculate for department A. Overhead absorption rate. In the overhead absorption rate, we use budgeted details. To calculate the overhead absorption rate, we use budgeted details. The budgeted overhead, how much? Department A, budgeted overhead 80,000 rupees. 80,000 rupees. Budgeted, they use this budgeted 80,000 rupees. Budgeted labor hours. The labor hours, budgeted labor hours 5,000. Budgeted labor department A, budgeted labor hours 10,000. 10,000. The actual machine hours, basis here mean machine hours. Why? They use actual labor hours. Actual labor hours of this department is 8,000. The actual labor hours is 8,000. Overhead absorption rate is budgeted details. To calculate the overhead absorption rate, you use budgeted details. Budgeted overheads of department A was 80,000. Budgeted machine hours department A is 10,000 into actual machine hours. So how much you get? 8 into 8,000, 64,000. 64,000 rupees. Then the question number what's the total overhead cost absorbed by department A? Total overheads absorbed by department A. We got how much is the answer? 64,000 rupees. We got 64,000 rupees. Then the answer number to question number 9. What is the total overhead cost absorbed by department B? Here it was department A, this is department B. Department B. You can use the same formula to calculate department B. The department B, overhead absorbed equal overhead absorption rate, budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. The budgeted overheads of department B 60,000 rupees. 60,000. The budgeted labor hours in that department, budgeted labor hours 5,000. 5,000. 5,000 into actual labor hours. The actual labor hours how much? Department B, actual labor hours 5,200. This for department B. 60,000 divided by 12, 5,000 is 12 into 5,200. The answer you get 62,400. 62,400. What you learn here? Overhead absorbed equal overhead absorption rate into actual basis. Overhead absorption rate into actual basis. Actual basis what they have given here? They labor hours. Actual basis here mean labor hours. Absorption rate based on budgeted details into actual labor hours. 62,400. The 62,400 answer number. Answer number 2. Both questions answer number 2. And we have direct material cost, direct material, direct labor, direct expense. And this addition we can call prime cost. Direct material, direct labor, direct expense addition we call prime cost. 200,000 plus 60,000 plus 40,000, prime cost is 300,000. The prime cost is 300,000 rupees. Overhead absorption rate 10 rupees per direct labor. Overhead absorption rate is 10 rupees per direct labor. 10 rupees per direct labor. Number of direct laborers required per unit. Number of direct laborers required per unit. 5 hours you want. The budgeted production overhead is 100,000 rupees. Budgeted production unit is 100,000. Budgeted production overhead is 100,000. Right. What is the cost per unit? What is the cost per unit? Production cost per unit. What's the production cost per unit? The production cost consists of prime cost and production overhead. Production cost consists of prime cost and production overhead. The question requirement is per unit production cost. We want per unit production cost. And the production cost per unit, how you calculate? If you know prime cost per unit plus the prime cost per unit plus the production overhead per unit. Prime cost plus production overhead per unit will be the requirement. They want production cost per unit. Production cost per unit. The production cost mainly consists of prime cost and production overhead. We'll calculate now. And the prime costs of this organization is direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. We have 300,000 prime cost, 300,000 of the addition of this. The prime cost per unit, the 300,000 rupees total prime cost. If you can identify number of units, you can calculate. In this question, the overhead absorption rate is given. Overhead absorption rate is given. How much? 10 rupees per direct labor. The overhead absorption rate is given. OAR given. How much? 10 rupees per what? 10 rupees per direct labor hours. 10 rupees per direct labor hours is given as 10. Right. And how you calculate that? Overhead absorption rate equal budgeted production overheads divided by budgeted direct labor hours. Right. Production overhead is given. How much? 100,000 rupees. 100,000 rupees is the overhead. Then how many labor hours you have used? You can calculate how many labor hours. Overhead is clear now. The overhead absorption rate is 10. It should be equal to total overheads, which is given as 100,000 here, 100,000 divided by labor hours. So how many labor hours? The labor hours 10,000. But this is number of labor hours, not the number of production units. This is number of labor hours, not number of production units. Number of labor hours. If you know per unit, number of direct labor hours required per unit is 5 hours. The per unit you want 5 hours. Then how many production unit? The 10,000 total labor hours used, per unit you take 5 hours. Total labor hours used 10,000 per unit 5. How you divide it by this? How you take 5? It's given here. It's given here as 5. So you get production unit is 2,000 units. Production units 2,000. And you can calculate prime cost per unit. 2,000 units. 2,000 units. 2,000. Then you get prime cost per unit. Then you can calculate production cost per overhead per unit. The absorption rate is given. How much? Absorption rate. The overhead absorption rate how much? Overhead absorption rate is 10 rupees per direct labor. 10 rupees per direct labor. 10 rupees per direct labor. How many hours you want? 10 rupees per hour. 10 rupees per hour into per unit how many hours you use? Per unit it says 5 hours. It says 5 hours. Per unit 5 hours. So you can calculate overhead part also. 300,000 divided by 2,000, 150, 10 into 5. 5 is what? 5 is what? 5 is number of hours required per production unit. 5 hours per unit. 5 hours. 10 into 5, 50 rupees. The addition come to 200 rupees. This what is the requirement? Production cost per unit. Production cost per unit. ₹200. 200 rupees. Here what we did, production cost per unit equal prime cost plus production overhead, and then total prime cost divided by number of units. This is how you calculate number of units. How you calculate number of units? Absorption rate. Using the absorption rate, you use and calculated how many labor hours used per unit 5, then 2000 labor hours used. 2000 units you produce. 300,000 is for 2000 units. Prime cost per unit plus overhead cost per unit, then you get your total cost as 200 rupees. The total cost as 200 rupees. Answer number 5. This information you use to calculate answer from question number 11 to 15. Okay. 11 to 15. So you have 2 production department and 2 service department. 2 production centers and 2 service centers. The budgeted overheads of this department given: production, AB, services, maintenance and stores. The material supplied in kilograms 3000 and 2000, maintenance hours and budgeted machine hours. The actual production they have 800 units. Actual production they have 800 units. Actual production. The prime cost incurred 19,080. The machine hours used, division A they have used 200 hours and division B 400 hours. The requirements. What is the total overheads of production department A after reapportionment of service cost? What is the total overheads of production division A after reapportionment of service cost? So question number 12 also parallel. What is the total overheads of production division B after the reapportionment of service cost? If department A and B, service cost. Right. So usually you can prepare a small overhead analysis sheet. The overhead analysis sheet to calculate the overhead cost of this department. Overhead analysis sheet. So what are the departments? They have 4 departments. Department A, Department B, Department Service Department is a what are the service department proper names? maintenance department and stores. The maintenance department and stores. The say M, the maintenance M, and service department stores we call S. Production divisions A and B, service department maintenance and two service department maintenance and stores. Then the given overheads, given or budgeted or given overheads, given, and it's given we'll do in 1000, 40,000, 30,000, 8,000, 10,000. These are the given information, and you can force the slide and do the sum. Given overhead. Right. After here, you have two production centers and two cost centers, service centers. Two production centers and two service centers. After this service centers cost, we have to allocate to this department. We have to allocate to this department. Service department cost we have to allocate to production department. That's what we are going to do now. The reapportionment. The maintenance department, you have maintenance department, maintenance. The maintenance department, you have 8,000 rupees of cost. We have to take it out. And you have to allocate among two production centers. And then to how to reapportion. They have two service department, maintenance and stores. The reapportion basis is silent. Then what you do? You have to identify what's the function of this department. This is a maintenance department. What they do? They do maintenance activities of these production divisions. Being this service department is a maintenance center, it provides services to production department. Then you can use maintenance hours as the basis. Maintenance department cost, you can use maintenance hours. The maintenance hours. So what are the given? 1,000, 4,000. Given as 1,000, 4,000. You can build up ratio here 1:4. Remember this 8,000 you divide in 1:4 ratio. 8,000 you divide in the ratio of 1:4. The 1 plus 4, 5. 1/5, 1/4/5. From this 8,000, 1/5 to department A. How much? Your calculation 1,600. It's 1,600. Then 4/5 is how much? 6,400. 6,400. This is a maintenance department. You identify the function of that department to reapportion. If the base is not clearly given, what we do, we identify what is the function of the service department. So there is another service department. What's that? You have stores. Other service department is stores. Reapportionment, first one you did for the maintenance, second one stores. what's the basis you use? What's the basis you use? This service department is a store. Service department is a store. So what's the stores do? The stores will supply materials. To whom? To production department. Material question we learn. When the store production department wants materials, it has to inform the stores to issue materials. Then you can use this material supplied as the basis. Material supplied as the basis. Then you can write material supplied. The material supplied. How they have supplied it? What's the ratio? They have supplied 3000 kilograms to production department A, 2000 to production department B. 3000, 2000. The ratio 3 is to 2. The ratio is 3 is to 2. Then for this 10,000, you take it out. This 10,000 you can allocate 3 is to 2. 3 is to 2. 10,000 you allocate in the ratio of 3 is to 2. Three over 5 and 2 over 5. How much to this A? 6,000 and department B 4,000. You take this 10,000 out of. When you ultimately total, this department becomes 0 and addition of a department A and B. Now we'll go to the question. What's total cost of production department A and production department B? A addition, how much you got? A addition to get 47,000. Here you get 47,600 and 40,400. 40,400 final answers. If the department A 47,600, department B 40,400. Department A, what was that? Amount 47,600. Department A 47,600. How much department B? Department B 40,400. Answer number 4. Answer number 4. So this is based on same information. What is the total overhead absorption rate? What's the absorption rate based on machine hours for department A, division A? What is the total overhead absorption rate? Overhead absorption rate for machine hours on machine hours for division B. For division A absorption rate and division B absorption rate. Absorption rate for division A and division B. Right. So what you should learn here, before calculation of absorption rate, So before calculation of absorption rate, you must have reapportioned the service cost. Yes, we have done that. We have done that. No cost in the service department. No cost in the service department. Now we have production department A. We have 40,600. 40,600. This is for department A. Department B we have 40,400. So what's the absorption rate? The overhead absorption rate is equal. Overhead absorption rate is equal budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Overhead absorption rate is equal budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Department A. Department A. So budgeted overheads how much? 47,600 budgeted overheads. Department B. The budgeted overheads divided by budgeted labors. Budgeted overheads 40,400. 40,400. Right. Then you have to identify what is the value of budgeted. What's the basis? They say machine hours. Budgeted machine hours. The budgeted machine hours given here. Here you have 2,000. Here we have 1,000. 2,000 and 1,000. Department A 2,000. Department B 1,000. It's clearly given. Production department A 2,000. Production department B 1,000. The budgeted values given. You can divide and get the answers. So how much you get for department A? 47,600 divided by 2,000, you get 23 rupees and 80 cents per machine hour. Per machine hour. Then the department B. 40,400 divided by 1,000, 40 rupees and 40 cents per machine hour. The budgeted overheads we have calculated earlier, you divide it by budgeted machine hours. Budgeted overheads divided by budgeted machine hours. You can get the answers now. Absorption rate on machine hours, division A. The division A we calculated. How much? The division A we calculated 23 rupees and 80 cents. 23 rupees and 80 cents. Absorption rate for division B. Absorption rate for division B we calculated 40 rupees and 40 cents. 40 rupees and 40 cents. The 13th question, answer number 2. So what is the unit cost of this product? What's the unit cost of the product? Unit cost of the product. and the unit cost is given. Now the production we had prime cost, overhead, and you can divide by a number of units. To calculate the unit cost, and the unit cost consists of prime cost. The prime cost, how much? Prime cost was given. The prime cost was given. How much is was? The prime cost was given. Basic introduction. To basic introduction, prime cost how much? The prime cost incurred is 19,080. The prime cost incurred 19,080. Prime cost was 19,000 rupees and 19,080 rupees. So for that you can take overhead. Overhead. Overheads, we have two departments. Overheads we have two departments. Department A. Department A, how much? Absorption rate we calculated 23 rupees and 80 cents. So how many hours we have used? Machine hours used. Division A 200. Division A 200. 23 rupees and 87 23 rupees and 80 cents per machine hour. Per machine hour. Then how many machine hours we have used? 200 machine hours. That's department A. So department B. Department B. Department B, how much you calculated? You calculate 40 rupees and 40 cents. The 40 rupees and 40 cents per machine hour. How many machine hours you have used? Department B, we have used 400 machine hours. You multiply by 40 rupees and 40 cents. How many machine hours used? You have used 400 machine hours. And then it's 40 rupees and 40 cents per machine hour. You have to clearly identify that's for per machine hour. 40 rupees and 40 cents you incurred per machine hour. You can multiply and get the values. 23 rupees and 80 cents into 200 to 4,760. To 40 rupees and 40 cents to 400, you get 16,160. You get the total 40,000. Total cost 40,000. But the question, I think you want that to calculate. Question requires to calculate per unit. Per unit. How many units you have produced? 800 units. Then you divide by 8. It's given here. 800 is given here. 40,000 rupees. You divide it by 800. The 40,000 divided by 800 unit cost. You get 50 rupees per unit. You get 50 rupees per unit. Unit cost is 50 rupees. How you calculated? The prime cost was given, and using the absorption rate, you calculate the total overheads. Total comes to 40,000. You divide by 800 units, then you get cost per unit as 50 rupees per unit. cost per unit 50 rupees. Unit cost we calculated 50 rupees. This is how we calculate it. The prime cost was given, overhead we calculated for department A, department B. This was 800 units. The 40,000 rupees for 800 units. 40,000 rupees for 800 units. Then per unit 50 rupees. The question number 15. The answer is answer 5. Do you have estimated details, total overheads and estimated direct labors? How they absorbed overhead? Overhead absorbed on direct labors. On direct labors. Now the first one, overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate. How you calculate overhead absorption rate? Budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. The overhead absorption rate equal to budgeted overheads or estimated overhead divided by budgeted basis. Budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis or estimated overhead divided by estimated overhead. Right. So how much is the estimated overhead? Estimated overhead given as estimated 6 million rupees. 6 million rupees. The budgeted basis. What's the basis they say? Overhead absorbed based on direct labor hours. And the direct labor hours, budgeted direct labor hours, how much? 30,000. 30,000. 600 divided by 3, rupees 200 per labor hour. 200 rupees per labor hour. Overhead absorption rate 200 rupees per labor hour is 200 per labor hour. Overhead absorption rate is 200 rupees per labor hour. What's the total overhead absorbed? Total overhead absorbed. Next question. The total overhead absorbed. Total overhead absorbed equal. This is question number 16 previously, now 17. The total overhead absorbed equal. Absorbed equal overhead absorption rate into actual basis. Actual, what they use? They use labor hours. Actual labor hours. The overhead absorption rate we calculated. Overhead absorption rate we calculated. How much? 200 rupees per labor hours. 200 rupees per labor hours. Then how much the actual labor hours? How much is the actual labor hours? The actual labor hours 20,000. 20,000 labor hours. to get 4 million rupees. To get 4 million rupees. Or the absorption rate into actual basis, actual labor hours, 4 million rupees. You get a 4 million rupees. Rupees given 4 million. Absorption rate week, how much you got? 200 rupees per labor hour. 200 rupees per labor hour. Total overhead absorbed is 4 million rupees. 4 million. Question number 18. If production overheads are absorbed based on direct labor hours, the production overheads are absorbed based on direct labor hours, what is the total overheads absorbed by the product based on following information? Overhead absorbed. Total overheads absorbed. And the overhead absorbed. The overhead absorbed we discussed in the previous question. It's equal overhead absorption rate into actual overhead absorption rate is overhead absorbed equal overhead absorption rate into actual basis. What's their basis? Direct labor hours. Here we can use actual direct labor hours. This is how you calculate overhead absorbed. Overhead absorption rate into actual direct labor hours. Absorption rate we calculate using estimated details. Estimated details. So, estimate of budgeted. Here you have 600,000 divided by 30,000. The 600,000 budgeted overheads. The budgeted labor hours how much? The budgeted labor hours 30,000. The budgeted labor hours 30,000. Then you can multiply by actual labor hours. You can multiply by actual labor hours. How many actual labor hours? The actual labor hours we have 20,000. 20,000 labor hours. This is overhead absorption rate into actual hours. ₹20. 20,000. 400,000 rupees. 400,000 rupees. The total overhead absorption rate into actual direct labor hours. Actual direct labor hours answer is 400,000 rupees. ₹400,000. Rupees 400,000. to answer question number 19, 20 and 21. The following information relates to a company which consists of two production departments. They have two production department and a service department. The budgeted overheads given: machinery department 350,000, finishing department 250,000 and store 100,000. So these two are manufacturing department or production department or manufacturing. This is a service department. The overheads absorption rate. Absorption rate they have calculated. How you calculate? We know now. The budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. So here 40 rupees for machine hours. Machine hour. This 20 rupees per labor. Machine hour and labor. The total overheads of the store are reapportioned equally. Store is the service department. The store is the service department. That store's cost, yeah, reapportioned equally. You have reapportioned equally. Now, before the calculation of absorption rate, we learn we have to reapportion service cost. Having a cost in the service department, you can't calculate absorption rate. Having a cost in the service department, you can't calculate absorption rate. They have calculated. They have calculated mean this 100,000 they have reapportioned it. How they have reapportioned? It says equally. The 6 machine hours are required and 10 laborers also required to produce 1 unit of product A. To produce 1 unit, 6 machine hours and 10 laborers are required. To produce 1 unit, 6 machine hours and 10 laborers are required. So question number 19, what is the number of machine hours expected to be used? The number of machine hours expected to be used in machine department. Right. So here we have calculated, they have calculated absorption rate. They have calculated absorption rate. And how you calculate the absorption rate? Overhead absorption rate is equal budgeted overhead divided by budgeted basis. This is the formula to calculate overhead absorption rate. The overhead absorption rate is equal budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Budgeted overhead divided by budgeted basis. Right. Now the question requirement is calculate number of machine hours. Number of machine hours. In the computation of machine hours, budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Now here they want you to calculate what's the number of machine hours expected to be used. If you go back to the question, the question it says the absorption rate they have calculated machine department using machine hours. The 40 rupees per machine hour. 40 rupees per machine hour. if you take here machine department, we will take the machining department. Machining department overhead absorption rate is given. How much? How much? Here you have 40 rupees. The 40 rupees is given. The 40 rupees is based on what? 40 rupees per machine hour. 40 rupees per machine hour. Here budget machine hours. Machine hours. Right. Now the issue is, what is the budgeted overhead? The budgeted overheads. How much is the budgeted overhead? Right. And the machine department you have 350,000. Machine department you have 350,000 rupees. That's only in machining department. But we have learned in the calculation of absorption rate, before calculation of absorption rate, you must have calculated final production department cost. There should not be a service cost. But here we have 100,000. So this 100,000, from that 100,000, we have to take part to production department. How they allocate? Stores expense you allocate, reapportion equally. You reapportion it equally. So from 100,000, half, 50%. 100,000, half you take for this department. 50,000 rupees. 50,000 rupees. The answer is 400,000 rupees. 400,000. This is given. This 350,000 is given. It's given 350,000. Plus this is service cost. Half of the service cost. Half of the service cost. Then you can take here 400,000. This is how you got this 400,000. Now the machine hours equal 400,000 divided by 40. Machine hours equal 400,000 divided by 40. 10,000 machine hours. The budgeted machine hours to use is 10,000. 10,000 machine hours. What is the number of machine hours expected to be used in production department? 10,000 machine hours. So 10,000 machine hours. Machine hours. So question number 20. What is the number of labor hours? Number of labor hours expect to be used in finishing department. Expect to be used in finishing department. So we have overhead absorption rate. The overhead absorption rate we have. How you calculate it? Overhead absorption rate equal budgeted overheads divided by budgeted basis. Now we are calculating which department? Which department we are calculating? For finishing department. Finishing department. Finishing department. You can use the details. The finishing department, this is your finishing department. Right. The finishing department overhead absorption rate, they have calculated. Finishing department overhead absorption rate calculated. How much? 20 rupees. Absorption rate equal 20 rupees. Budgeted overheads, the direct labors. The budgeted overheads divided by direct labors. Direct labor hours. Now the issue is a computation of budgeted overheads. Issue is computation of budgeted overheads. We can calculate it. So how much is the cost? Stores finishing department itself has 250,000. The finishing department itself has 250,000 rupees. Finishing department has 250,000 rupees. And from the service department, we have learned, having a service cost, you can't calculate absorption rate. Why? Service cost we have to reallocate to a production department. So this 100,000, they say equally to machine and finishing department. The 100,000 equally to machine and finishing department. Then from the stores, 100,000 equally half, 50,000 you have to allocate to production department. And here you get 300,000 cost. 300,000 cost. So how you got 300,000? How you got 300,000? Finishing department itself you have 250,000 and service department stores we get 300,000. You can calculate direct labors. The direct labors equal 300,000 divided by 20. $15,000 direct labors. 15,000 direct labors. The answer 15,000 labors. To 21, what is the unit cost of production of product X? Unit cost of production of product X. If its estimated prime cost is 240, what is the unit cost of production of product X if its estimated prime cost is 240? The prime cost of the product is given as 240. The prime cost given as 240. This is question number 21. The question requirement is to calculate unit cost of production. The cost of production equal prime cost plus production overhead. The prime cost is given 240 rupees. The prime cost is 240 rupees. For this prime cost, you have to add your overhead. You have to add your overheads. You have two department. Department. To other department, machine department. There are two departments, the machinery department and the other department is finishing, machinery department and finishing department. $240 is the prime cost. 240 is the prime cost. In overhead, machinery department and finishing department. The overhead absorption rate is given. The overhead absorption rate is given 40 rupees per machine hour. The 40 rupees per machine hour. 40 rupees per machine hour. The machinery department, the 40 rupees per machine hour. Per machine hour into how many hours required? The 40 rupees is per machine hour. How many hours required? 6 machine hours are required. 6 machine hours are required. 40 rupees per machine hour to 6 machine hours into 6 into how much overhead cost? 240 from machining department. From machining department 240. 240 from machining department. The finishing department. The finishing department absorption rate 20 rupees. The finishing department absorption rate is 20 rupees. The finishing department absorption rate is 20 rupees. The 20 rupees per labor. 20 rupees per labor. 20 rupees per labor. 20 rupees per labor. How many hours required? So how many hours required? 10 laborers are required. 10 laborers are required. 20 rupees per hour into 10. 20 rupees into 10 hours. 20 rupees per labor is absorption rate is given here. Absorption rate is given 20 rupees per hour. You require 10 hours. 20 rupees into 10. 200 rupees. Then you can get the total. 680,000 rupees. The rupees 680. how you calculated? The prime cost was given. Overhead machinery department. 40 rupees per machine hour. These rates given, the 40 and 20 are given, and you multiply by number of hours. The 40 rupees per machine hour into 6 hours, you get 240. In finishing department, 20 rupees per labor hour, 10 hours required. The absorption rates are given, you multiply by number of hours to get 680 rupees. To get 680 rupees. ₹680. 680 rupees. The 19th question, 10,000 the machine hours. 20th question, 15,000 it's labor hours. Unit cost 680 rupees. 680 rupees is unit cost. So question number 22 and 23. The following information relates to a firm which produces a single product through two cost center, machine and assembly. You have two cost centers, machine and assembly. Overhead cost absorbed per unit. The machine department you have absorbed 500 rupees, and from assembly department per unit you have absorbed 400 rupees. Number of hours to produce a unit. To produce a unit, from machine department we want 2 hours. From machine department we want 2 hours. From assembly department we want 4 hours. 2 hours are required from the machining department and 4 hours are required from labor department. The total hours worked, machine department they have worked 10 machine hours. In machinery department they have utilized 10 machine hours, and assembly department 20,000 labor hours. Assembly department 20,000. The overheads are absorbed based on machine hours. In machinery department, labor hours in assembly department. The machinery department they use machine hours, assembly department they use labor hours to absorb overhead. Machinery department you use machine hours, labor department you use labor hours. To calculate the following: overhead absorption rate in rupees per hour for machining department and assembly department. and total absorbed for machine department and assembling department. Right. We'll do question number 22. Calculate the following overhead absorption rate rupees per hour. The overhead absorption rate. The overhead absorption rate we learned the budgeted overheads divided by budgeted details. Overhead absorption rate we learn one method to calculate. Overhead absorption rate, one method to calculate the budget OAR equal the budgeted overheads divided by estimated overheads divided by budgeted basis. It's one method. But here you can't use that method. You can't use it. Why? This information is not given. Then the overhead absorbed. We learn overhead absorbed equal 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 overhead absorption rate into actual hours. Actual base, actual hours. For in this question, you can use this approach and to get the missing value. Overhead cost absorbed per unit is given. Per unit is given. Machine department and assembling department. We'll calculate for machine department. Machine department. This for machinery department. The machinery department overhead absorbed how much? The machinery department overhead absorbed is 500 rupees. 500. What's the requirement to calculate the overhead absorption rate? The how many hours they used? The number of hours to produce a unit, they want 2 machine hours. They want 2 machine hours. Overhead absorption rate into hours required, 2 machine hours. Then you can calculate overhead absorption rate. The overhead absorption rate equal 500 divided by 2, 250 rupees. 250 rupees. How you calculate? Using overhead absorbed equal absorption rate into actual hours used. Then you get 250 rupees. So here 250 rupees. 250 rupees. 250 rupees. The 250 rupees the answer here. This is 250. ₹250. The same way you can calculate for assembly department. Same way you can calculate for assembly department. How? There we calculate for machine department, assembly department. assembly department. In the assembly department, how much absorption rate? Overhead absorbed per unit is 400 rupees. Overhead absorbed per unit is 400 rupees. ₹400 equal overhead absorption rate is what we are calculating. Actual hours on that department is number of hours required to produce one unit is 4 hours per day. The overhead absorption rate equal 400 divided by 4, you get 100 rupees. The previous discussion you got 250 rupees. 250 rupees. Absorption rate we calculated using what? When absorbed equal absorption rate into hours required. So question number 23. Calculate the following total overhead cost absorbed. Total overhead cost absorbed. The overhead absorption rate into number of hours, total hours. The question requirement is the question number 23 requirement is total overhead cost absorbed. Total overhead absorbed. So overhead absorbed equal overhead absorption rate into actual hours. The machining department separately. Machine department overhead absorption rate how much? Absorption rate is 250 we calculated. 250 we calculated. Hours worked, total hours worked 10,000 machine hours. 10,000 machine hours you get 2,500,000. That's for machining department. Then we have assembly department. Assembly. The assembly absorption rate how much we calculated? Assembly absorption rate is 100. That you multiply by actual hours work 20,000 hours. Then you get 2 million rupees. The machining department 2,500,000, assembly department 2 million rupees. $2,500,000 here. And here you got 2 million rupees. 2 million rupees. Machine department 2,500,000. This department you got 2 million rupees. The answers, here you got 250, here you got 100, 2,500,000 and 2 million. 2 million rupees. The answers. Machine department overhead equal with absorption rate into hours used. So question number 24. The salary cost per hour for senior consultant. The senior consultant per hour you pay 4,000 rupees. The salary cost per hour for junior consultant 2,500 per hour. Overhead absorption rate per hour to all 2,000 rupees. The organization adds the 40% to the total cost to arrive at the final fee to be charged to a client. They calculate total cost. From that to that you add 40% to decide the final fee. This job took 54 hours of senior consultants. What are the specific job number given? It has taken 54 hours for senior consultant. How much you pay for senior consultant? Per hour you pay 4,000. The job has taken 54 hours of senior consultant and 110 hours of junior consultant. 110 hours from junior consultant, 54 hours from senior. What is the final fee to be charged? What's the final fee to be charged? And you can calculate the cost of the job, and on that you add 40% on cost. Then you get the fee. You can calculate the cost. On that you add 40% and you get the fee of this assignment. Till calculate. So for this job, two types of consultants are involving. 24. Right. The senior consultants. The senior consultant's fee per hour 4,000. So how many hours they have taken? 54 hours by senior consultant. 54 hours by senior consultant. Right. The project fee to senior consultant 4,000 per hour. They have taken 54 hours. 54 hours by senior consultant. Then junior consultant. To junior consultant. For junior consultant per hour, you pay 2,500. For junior consultant, you pay 2,500. How many hours they have taken? The junior consultants, they have taken 110. Per hour, you pay 2,500 into 110 hours. The overheads. Overhead absorption rate per hour applied to all hours. Overhead absorption rate per hour applied to all hours. Overheads. Overhead absorption rate, how much? The absorption rate, overhead absorption rate, $2,000. $2,000 per hour. So how many hours you? So how many hours? However, this is applied to all grades. Applied to all. So 54 hours senior consultants, 110 hours junior consultant. The 54 hours senior consultant, 110 junior consultant. For this job we had 164 hours. They have taken 164 hours for this job. So 54 hours by senior consultant, but 110 junior consultant, they have 164 hours. The absorption rate is for per hour. Absorption rate per hour. How many hours? 164 hours. 164 hours. You can calculate the total cost. For that, you add 40% to arrive the final fee of the assignment. 4,000 into 54, 216,000. 216,000. Junior consultant 2,500 into 110. 275,000. 275,000. The overhead 2,000 into 164, 328,000. 328,000. The addition comes to 819,000. 819,000. 819,000. Then the question says, the organization adds 40% to the total cost to arrive the final fee. Then you add profit. You add profit of 819,000 into 40%. The profit is 819,000. Of that, 40%. Then you get the fee of the assignment. The 819,000 into 40%, 327,600. 819,000 into 40%, 327,600, and you get the assignment fee. It comes 1,146,600. 1,146,600. The 1,146,600 is the assignment fee or the final fee. The final fee of the book. The fee to be charged. Fee to be charged is 1,146,600. You calculate senior consultant fees 54 hours into 4,000. Junior consultant 2,500 into 110 hours. But overhead absorption rate for all hours 2,000. Senior consultant 54 hours, junior consultant 110 hours, altogether 164 hours at 2,000. You get the total cost. This 819,000, so you can say total cost. Total cost. The 819,000, the profit of that 40% you add, then you get the assignment fee. Fee to be charged. Fee to be charged. Fee to be charged. The fee to be charged is the 1,146,600. 1,146,600 is the fee to be charged for this assignment. How we calculated? Senior consultant fees 4,000 per hour into 54 hours. Junior consultant 2,500 hours, 2,500 per hour into 110 plus overheads. Overhead is 2,000. It is applicable for absorption rate for our all hours. Whether senior or junior has no issue, 2,000. So altogether 164 hours for the job, 54 plus 110, then you get total cost. For that you add the profit margin to decide final overall. 1,146,600 is the final fee to be charged for this assignment. So based on the information given below, what is the overhead absorption rate per hour of a manufacturing organization? The budgeted overhead given, actual overheads given, overhead cost absorbed given, actual hours also given. The question requirement, based on the following information, what is the overhead absorption rate? Overhead absorption rate. So based on the information, what's the overhead absorption rate? And the overhead absorbed. The overhead absorbed, how can we calculate? The overhead absorbed equal. The 25th question. The overhead absorbed equal. Absorbed overhead equal. Overhead absorbed equal. Overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate into actual hours or actual basis. The overhead absorption rate into actual hours. Overhead absorbed given. Absorbed overhead. Absorbed. How much? 1,800,000 rupees. 1,800,000 rupees is the overhead absorbed. The absorption rate is a requirement. You have to calculate the absorption rate. Absorption rate. It's missing overhead absorption rate. Into actual hours. So how many actual labor hours is required is absorption rate per labor. Absorption rate per labor. So how many labor hours given? Actual labor hours 10,000 rupees. Actual labor hours 10,000 rupees. You can calculate overhead absorption rate. You can calculate overhead absorption rate. How? 1,800,000 you divide by 10,000. Rupees 180 rupees per what's the basis? Labor. 100 rupees per labor. 180 rupees per labor. How you calculated absorb overhead equal absorption rate into actual hour. Answer is the answer 180 rupees per labor. 180 rupees per labor. Right. And today we discuss overhead costing. That is the 14th lesson. In a previous situation we discussed introduction, material costing and labor costing. Right. And in the costing lessons, normally students identify overhead part is bit hard. Overhead costing is bit hard. But if you properly identify this overhead, it's very easy. So usually second paper, second compulsory question you get overhead calculation. And MCQ also usually you get 2 MCQs. In the first paper you get overhead costing also. Right. In the overhead costing what we have to do basically, you have to identify overhead cost items. Then you have to classify, you have to allocate among departments, both production and service department. To the service department cost you have to allocate to production department, then you calculate the absorption rate, based on that you calculate the unit cost. Right. After this now we have done almost most of the important areas in the syllabus. So most of the important areas the syllabus under the concept of NanaJaya program organized by the Bank of Ceylon, being the bankers to the nation. Right. After these lessons, if you get a sound knowledge by doing these questions, the Bank of Ceylon will be happy about their effort to learn, to teach you more. Right. And I must be very grateful to Bank of Ceylon for inviting me to conduct seminars targeting the main areas of the syllabus, basically important in the advanced level accounting paper. Advanced level accounting paper. We'll meet with another lesson. Until then, I won.